Humans are really funny, really incredible creatures. We're made up of all sorts of different pieces and parts. We have a body, we have a spirit, we have a mind, and we have a heart. I think it's fair to say that every single one of us, especially when it comes to emotions, are going to suffer from the emotions that we have. Now, I am just like anybody else. I have emotions, and sometimes those emotions can get the best of me. I'm a Pisces. I'm a Pisces, like a real Pisces. So I have all sorts of watery emotions on the inside of me. It's taken me a while to realize that none of those emotions are bad. Humans just literally don't have bad emotions. And we can look at emotions like sadness and grief and anger and feel those are negative, but they're really not. All emotions, every single emotion that a human has, is a motivator, meaning that when we experience these emotions or these emotions fill our heart up, we're being motivated toward something, away from something. Anger is a great example of that. Everybody here, everybody watching this, is here because somebody behind us, one of our ancestors, was angry at something that was going to hurt them or theirs. So you can't look at anger, you can't look at sadness, you can't look at any human emotion as negative, really not as positive. It's really how we're interacting with it. I do also believe that because we're not trained on how to manage our emotions, that it can get really painful for a lot of us. And a lot of us can struggle with emotions, grief, sadness, anxiety, all of them. We can struggle with them. I have a perspective that I want to share with you, and I hope that it helps you see your emotions through a different light. I want to bring attention, I want to bring focus to the fact that your words have power. So when you talk about your emotions, anger, sadness, grief, anxiety, I want you to speak to them as if they are outside of you. And what I mean by that is there is a huge difference between saying, I am sad, I have sadness, versus how other cultures, other languages talk about emotions. Other cultures, other languages will not say I am sad. They will say sadness is upon me. Now, emotions are funny because emotions, we think that they're inside us. I don't believe they are. When we talk about things like love and anxiety and fear, worry, happiness, joy, ecstasy, all of those are universal experiences. Those are universal emotions. Pretty much every human's going to have those. They're not ours alone. I can't have sadness. I can't be sad. Sadness can come upon me in the same way that winter can come upon me. I'd like you to shift your perspective around your emotions, and instead of seeing them as things that you have to battle on the inside of you, I would rather us see emotions as something that we're moving through. So think of your emotions as kind of like a forest. You're in the forest of sadness, you're in the forest of happiness. Some forests, some 3D spaces, as you make your way through them, you'll want to get out of them faster versus slower. Happiness, you want to drag your feet as you move through happiness to prolong it. Sadness, anxiety, fear, worry, any of those other emotions, you'll want to move through that forest quickly. You'll want to move through that experience or that emotion. It's an incredible difference when we talk about emotions on the outside of us. And in the same way that we would interact with winter and go, well, winter, I'm in winter, that doesn't make me weak. It just means I'm in winter. When you have sadness, fear, worry, anxiety, you are in them. You are not them, and you do not have them. It's impossible. Can you look at sadness inside of you? Can you hold it with your hands? You're in it versus having it. And when we look at it through that perspective, it's easier to move through a forest than it is to operate on ourselves, cut our chest open, identify the emotion, and then rip it out of us. That's impossible. So think about your emotional landscape as something that is on the outside of you. And then when you remove it from being part of you, you remove the weight of all those expectations that society would have on you. I mean, men are taught not to be emotional. Women are taught not to be too emotional. It's 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 a struggle for us because I don't believe we live in a culture that honors emotional intelligence and emotional health. So remember the next time that you are in the middle of an emotion and you are actually in the middle of it, it is not part of you, you do not have it. Remember that you should just do your best to move through it. This can help us when we shift our perspectives to things being on the outside of us. For instance, you should never say those words, I am sick, or I have an illness, I have sickness. Imagine saying, sickness is upon me, versus saying, I am sick. When you say sickness is upon me, now it's outside of you and it's something that you can interact with and move away from, versus saying, I am sick. So be mindful, of course, how you speak to yourself, because you never want to say, I am sad. You never want to say that. You never want to say, I am sick. Move through those, they are upon you. Think about the emotions that you're working through right now and think about them being like a season, like a storm or a forest. And if somebody else was experiencing anxiety, fear, worry, any of those things that you very well could be experiencing right now, how would you encourage somebody else to move through that forest? How would you encourage somebody else to move through that anxiety? Just a little perspective shift around emotions and how handling them as an external force can better help our heart, our spirit. Have a wonderful day, and thank you for taking the time to watch.